piece that I want to talk to you today about is spiritual bypassing. We do a process here of shifting your state at the narrative level, at the second influence point, your plot, your narrative. Chatter, 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 chatter. Okay. And that's what we do in this integration course. Well, what happens when we go, okay, I'm just going to change the way I think, and I still got a feeling that is tied to when I was a little girl, when I was a little boy, when I was 3 years old, I got stuck in a basement. I had this feeling of being trapped. Get it? So now I got this feeling in my body of being trapped, this experience of being like totally demoralized, totally animalized by my step monster, my stepmom, right? I call her my step monster. And I had this feeling that's telling me that me and my wife are talking and doing bills, my wife's trying to fucking trap me. Right? How insane is that? But there it is, sitting, playing in the background. How do I move from a space of feeling this and allowing it to process and not living in it in here? Because I project it out in the world and I think she's trying to trap me, but she's not. She's trying to we're trying to get the bills done. And I'm not trapped in a basement. I'm sitting in Central Florida talking to, I'm a grown man. I'm not a 3-year-old little boy, but there's part of me that still feels that way. Get it? So how do I deal with the feeling and at the same time have the mind not get stuck in the dance that it gets stuck in? Okay. And so the goal here is the answer here, the solution here is agency. And this is something that we pick up in the shadow tribe, that we do a thing called shadow ceremony. Go to shadowceremony.com. There's a thing we do in shadow ceremony where we ping the narrative. So just in your mind, just go, I give you permission to see all of me, the good and the bad. Like I want you in your mind, say those words. I give you permission to see all of me, the good and the bad. Now do it again, but I want you to do it from a different frequency. I want you to mean it. In other words, instead of just saying those words in your head, say them in your head and mean it. It means it feels different, doesn't it? It feels a lot different, doesn't it? And the difference between the two is agency. One is you just da 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 da. Two is, what did I just mean? It's you leaning into it. Well, everything is fractal. That when we do shadow work, we have axioms that us shadow guides live out of. One of them is everything is fractal. If so above, so below, so within, so without. And so if that happens at the mental level in the mind body, then it probably happens down here in the physical body, in the emotion body as well. So now what we want to do is we want to think of those thoughts. We find ourselves in those emotional turmoils where we start to find ourselves in what's called a compressed thought. And you're going to learn about that in the app. And you have this compressed thought and you go, ooh, how do I know that I'm feeling scared? Well, because I'm starting to, I see myself looking at, no, that's the judgment. That's not a feeling. How do you know that in the body? Oh, I'm feeling this pressure. And then once you get it, you understand what I mean by that. Oh, well, there's this pressure in my gut. It's sitting right about here. Ooh, and it's kind of, ooh, this doesn't, and all of a sudden, oh, that hurts my stomach. Yes, now just feel it. Just feel the pressure in your stomach. Feel the hurt of it. Ooh, that's a lot. Yep, but don't give it any agency in the mind. In other words, I'm not going to make it mean anything other than I've got a stomach ache, I've got something going on, and I'm investigating it. And it can be hard to do this at first because we haven't been trained to separate the two out, really understand what it is I'm feeling in the physical body. We're trained to tune feelings out completely, not feel them. So now you feel it, you're processing it, okay, and it may take everything you've got for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, but after about 5 or 10 minutes, something interesting comes online. Because then all of a sudden you forget that you're doing that because it's taking all your focus. And so the mind just goes into it. And the second thing it does is it starts to process the hologram, the shadow, the original memory that is tied to that, to what the Hindus called samskara. The original hologram that's attached to that memory will then kind of float up in the mind. But it'll be different because it's not projecting it out into the world. You're not living out of it. Like I don't have to live in I don't have to be the 3-year-old living in the basement as long as I'm conscious of it. The problem is most of the time when I'm in shadow, most of the time when humans are in shadow, we're not conscious of it. That's why it's called shadow. It's the part that we don't know is going on. Now, when I'm feeling the emotion, I know that physically this is going on. And then all of a sudden I start to walk around and now I'm not enveloped in it. It doesn't define who I am. It doesn't define what my reality means. And in about 5 or 10 minutes, what you're doing is processing the energy. And what we're finding here in this, what the guides are finding through doing that is it's expelling the energy so that the energy has some place to go other than shoving it back down. I don't need to deal with this right now, or it's not real, whatever it is. This is what's going on. And then it starts to kind of just get expelled. And all of a sudden I'm walking around. And the even bigger value, I had this situation with my daughter. She's 11 years old. She's fighting to get her homework done. And so I got triggered. And I'm triggered. I'm in there and I catch the trigger. I mean, this is the first time I've had an 11-year-old girl fight me on doing her homework. So this is new. And so of course there's going to be new shadows that arise out of that, right? So I'm sitting, I notice it. Ooh, I feel this tension. I catch myself going. All of a sudden I'm in way too invested in this homework. Like I'm way more invested in this than she is. Like I'm mad, and it's not invested in her getting her homework. At some level, it's I'm not going to survive if she doesn't get her homework done. And as soon as that happens, I know I'm in shadows. Like, okay, what's going on here? Don't feel it. I captured it. I let it sit there. Okay. And I'm dealing with her. I take her phone. I go in the room. I sit down and take some time because me and Valerie, if you're in a relationship, you got to be, again, I'm look at the intro to Shadow on relationships. Like you have to be able to give each other your space, right? But I'm in there and I'm processing it. And because I'm just giving it space and I'm not allowing it to take hold of my mind, and I'm not giving it agency, I'm not locking it in, then what happens is this hologram comes up. This gentle memory just pops up out of nowhere. My dad, when I was a little kid, probably about 11 years old, shoved broccoli down my throat when I was sitting at the kitchen table to the point to where I had to run up. I went and puked it all out. And I remember sitting puking in the sink, and I remember him standing there with his arms crossed and just shaking his head like in disgust. He was just disgusted with me as if you'll never be a man. And underneath that, what he was really coming from, that he wasn't communicating, which is why it hit me as shadow, was I can't make this boy do anything. And he was disgusted because he had no control. And because he was disgusted because he had no control, I took that on as I'll never be a man. And now here I am being a man, and I'm feeling this disgust and this disgust for me, not for her. Well, probably at some level, honestly, for her as well, but mostly for myself. Now I'm disgusted with myself because as a father, I can't make her do what it was that I want her to do. And I'm watching her puke up her broccoli, metaphorically speaking. And that metaphor, that hologram is just hanging out in the world. And I don't even know it's there. But because I was able to capture the emotion, sit in the emotion, and allow myself to be uncomfortable in it, but not give it agency, not lock up in the frame of it, because the hologram comes online and the conscious mind doesn't know. The conscious mind doesn't know that it's being discussed. You're getting this disgust from your dad when you were 11 years old. That's the frame of reference that you're operating from. The conscious mind thinks it's operating from I'm a 50-year-old man trying to get my 11-year-old daughter to do the homework, and this is the only way it's going to happen. That's what because it's a point. It's not taking in all that other data. All that other stuff has subtly been painted. And now I'm on the other end of it, just trying to survive it. And because I don't know, because I'm not taking the time to not give it agency. This agency thing we don't talk about in the real world. It's at the decision stage. It's right before I hit action. Right before the director goes action. Right before that happens, there's this stage where there's this pause, and then it goes in the inside of you, right? So when you're dealing with what we're doing here is we're operating at that level. And so this is the difference between spiritual bypassing, right? And at the same time, not living, well, what else do you expect me to do? I'm living out of this emotion. Yes, but the emotion is being caused by you being 11 years old. The emotion isn't caused by this 11-year-old girl having trouble with her homework. Because an 11-year-old girl that's having trouble with her homework needs what? Well, she needs love. She needs understanding. She needs somebody to support her. She needs to know that she can do it, that she can thrive in it. And when I'm yelling at her, telling her to do it or else, she's not getting any of that. Any of it. I'm running east, literally running east looking for a sunset.